How's your production on pasture? Are profits down? Are weight gains down? What are you going to do about it? Do something cost-effective. Do something that will make a difference. To add the first and proven leader in feed-through horn fly control to your cattle rations, ask for it by name, Alticid IGR.
Your land is more than a business. It's a heritage that has been passed down from those who tended it before you, by those who shaped it, changed it, and cared for it. Your land has a legacy, one that you carry on, but also one you build on. At Corteva Agriscience, we are the stewards of a lasting legacy. We have a responsibility to Dow AgroSciences, to maintain the relationships and trust they built, and to build upon those foundations, to help you care for your land, to provide innovations that help you protect the hard work and investment you've poured into it, to help you build a legacy that can be passed on for generations to come. Corteva Agriscience.
Ranching is passed down from generation to generation. Know what else gets passed down? The world's finest ranch and rodeo equipment, manufactured by WW Livestock Systems. Ranchers demand quality, and they have come to depend on WW equipment to fulfill their needs, large or small. We invite you to consider WW, made in America, available coast to coast. WW Livestock Systems, the world's finest since 1945.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us again today for day 3 of our 2020 Everything Ag webinars and special days here at Producers Cooperative Association. We're glad each and every one of you can take the time out of your day to join us for our educational programming that we've put together for you. We hope that it benefits your cow herd and makes you a little bit more profitable when the markets aren't as good as we'd like. And the best way to do that is to keep up with nutrition. Today we have John DeClerc with Purina Animal Nutrition with us, and he's going to kind of go over the importance of mineral nutrition and how it's the catalyst of longevity. This time of year, as in every day, it's important to feed mineral, but this time of year when cows are calving and you're trying to get them bred back, maybe it plays even more importance. And Mr. John DeClerc with Purina, he's kind of going to go over that for you guys. We hope you join us for the rest of the day and come see us this evening. We'll be open till 7:30.
All right, this might be a little better now. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit this morning about mineral nutrition. All right, I don't know if my clicker here is not working to advance the slides. Oh, there we go. Maybe. No, it says it's on. Okay, there it goes. All right, so as we kind of mentioned, so mineral is really important, but it's only one component of a total nutrition program. And so, you know, you cannot expect to just, even if you got the best mineral program in the country, if you're not giving your cows enough energy, if you're not giving enough protein, we're still not going to achieve the performance objectives that we're kind of setting forth here. So we will spend a majority of our time today talking about mineral, but keep in mind, this isn't an elixir. It's not going to cure everything that we got. So, but we are going to focus kind of talking about the catalyst, and that being minerals, kind of the spark plug that really ignites the entire nutritional program. And so I've kind of broken this session into 3 different things. And each segment here is kind of one of the key take-home messages I want you to remember. So no matter if you don't remember anything else from my session today, I hope you remember these 3 things. And first is that cattle need mineral supplementation. All right, we're going to learn that a lot of our forages are just inherently deficient in many of the minerals that are essential for profitable production. The second thing is that cattle need to eat the mineral to get the value out of it. Now, it may seem pretty simple, but if you're like me, you probably wish just by buying vegetables, you could be healthy. Or maybe if I just put the vegetables on my plate, I would feel better. But unfortunately, I got to eat those vegetables, and your cows have got to eat that mineral too if they're going to get the value. You just can't put it in the feeder. The cows have got to consume it if we're going to bolster their performance. And then my third take-home message is that Purina has a full line of research-tested and field-proven options that'll work no matter your circumstance. All right. So as we start to kind of get into it, we've got 14 different types of minerals that are required for production. Now, I don't expect anybody to memorize all this stuff, and it is maybe pretty complex, but just you can have the peace of mind of knowing that every time you pick up a bag of Purina mineral, it has got the appropriate concentration and balance in each and every one of these particular minerals that we've got represented here. Okay. So what's going to happen if I maybe decide that, well, I'm not going to spend all this money on a, you know, high priced mineral product? What can I expect to happen? Well, there's going to be a myriad of problems, but in general, I'm going to expect to see small and weak calves. I'm going to expect to see a lot more problems in terms of health. And then on the cow side, we're going to have a tougher time getting those cows to breed back in the right kind of window to be profitable like we'd like to see. And see, the problem when it comes to mineral deficiencies is that we have 2 different types that we generally call. We've got our clinical deficiency and a subclinical deficiency. Okay. So a clinical level is when the cattle actually will expose their issues. They'll actually show signs. So if we think about a cow that's got grass tetany, maybe she starts to shake and convulse. Maybe she starts to have muscle spasms. But unfortunately, she didn't just start to have a magnesium deficiency when she started to convulse, right? she's probably had that deficiency for weeks, maybe even months, and it's just gotten severe enough to where she actually shows the signs. And the problem is that we have a lot of cattle that are in that subclinical level where they do not express signs of deficiency. When you walk out in the pasture, they may look healthy. They may look like that everything's going great, but they are in this subclinical deficiency state. And at that particular state, we're going to see impaired immunity, and we're definitely going to see depressed figures in terms of growth and fertility rates. And that causes the domino effect that we're kind of referencing here, where we see that poor nutrition leads to, a cascade of events that ultimately end up with less profit for us as cattle producers. And so, with the COVID crisis, obviously this year, we've had just a smaller and a tighter window of margin than maybe what we're traditionally willing to see. And so this is one of those things that we cannot expect to turn a blind eye to mineral. This is one of those things we got to make the right investment here, because of it is going to have such a profound effect on our bottom line as cattle producers. And so as we start to look at all of our different production parameters here, we can see that there is a multitude of different things that mineral has a big effect on. Anything from conception rates, rate of gain, obviously health, and then, all the different factors that we want to take a look at here at. And see, minerals and vitamins are often kind of called a cofactor, which means that basically every process that happens in the body needs at least one mineral to facilitate or to use as a spark plug to make that process to happen. And so that's why no matter what you look at, whether it's fertility, nervous system, disease resistance, muscle development, any particular part of an animal's body, they need a multitude of different minerals to accomplish those particular goals. All right, so this next slide can be pretty complex. And so this talks about the difference in minerals and the interactions that they have. I don't anticipate anybody to memorize all this stuff by any means. But one thing that I want to make sure that we understand is that mineral nutrition is extremely complex. All right, so we got our different minerals listed here on the outside, and you can see at the top on the outside of that ball there. And anytime you see a line in between that is where minerals are and antagonize, or they have interactions together. See, minerals, they compete against one another for digestion. All right, so a common one that we just already referenced was grass tetany. So that'd be a lack of magnesium absorption or lack of magnesium in the blood. All right, now most of the time we get grass tetany in the spring when we turn cows out on fresh, lush, green growing grass. What if I told you there's enough magnesium in that grass to meet that cow's requirement? But the problem with it is that there's also elevated levels of potassium. And if you see there potassium, there's a line between potassium and magnesium. And since potassium is so high in fresh green growing grass, that blocks out the magnesium absorption. All right. Now, again, I'm not expecting anybody to memorize this, but what I bring this up is just to underscore the point that mineral nutrition is extremely complex. When I'm looking at a bag of mineral and I'm looking at I'm not so much worried about the concentration of one's particular nutrient. I'm worried about the balance, because if I throw off the balance of some of these different minerals, all of a sudden I'm not going to achieve the performance objectives that I want to. And so when I look at a lot of our competitors' products, I can't tell you how many times I'll look at the tag and I'm like, man, this is totally out of whack. The balance is not where we want it to be at. And because of that, we're definitely going to have an inferior product. So this is one of the most important investments you're going to make as a cattle producers, because it has such a paramount effect on your bottom line. So before you make an investment in a company, make sure you invest with a firm that understands all these different complexities and they've got your best interest at heart. All right. So another reason the mineral nutrition is extremely complex is because of, there's a lot of differences in selectivity in cattle too. So when you turn your cows out on pasture, there's not just one type of grass out there. There are hundreds of different species of grass. All right. And I promise you, your cows, they're no different than me and you. If we sent 5 or 6 of us, if we all walked into a pizza buffet, I promise you, when we sat down, we wouldn't all have the same exact pizza on our plate. We'd probably all have a little bit different concentration. Some of us may have all pepperoni. Some people may like more sausage or whatever it may be. But you're going to take whatever your palate is, what tastes best to you. Well, your cows are the same. There's species of grasses that they prefer, and they will go hunt and seek out that grass. So every cow that you have is getting a little different concentration of different type of grasses. And keep in mind, each grass has got a different concentration of minerals in it. All right. This is one of the things that adds a layer to complexity for us. And we also know that the bioavailability of mineral changes throughout the year. All right. So you think about when we get at the very beginning of the year, we get that, green growing grass, it's vegetative, and then we start to transition there. But the bioavailability, which is kind of a big fancy word of saying just what percentage of the mineral can the cow use? Well, the bioavailability changes as that grass is going to mature. And so this is another layer of complexity that we have to put together here. And so, something to kind of keep in mind. So when I'm looking at a mineral program and I'm looking at a mineral supplement that I'm trying to prove, there's 3 minerals that I really pay a lot of attention to. All right. So 2 of them would be trace minerals, and that'd be zinc and copper. And you can see zinc is going to be deficient in pretty much all grasses throughout the year. Copper, unless we're feeding just a straight legume, if we got them out on alfalfa hay, we've got enough copper. But other than that, we're going to be deficient. So those are 2 minerals that I for sure got to make sure that across every specific program that I'm providing an adequate level, because no matter what kind of grass those cows are eating, they're deficient in those 2. And then phosphorus is the 3rd. All right. So phosphorus, if you look at it throughout a year time period there, you can see the red line represents what the requirement is. There's only about 2 months out of the year where those cows are actually getting enough phosphorus to meet their requirement. So these are 3 minerals that I'm really concerned about as a nutritionist, as I'm looking through here and trying to make sure that we got our program put together. Now, phosphorus is generally referred to as the master mineral. And the reason it's called the master mineral is because it's a precursor to making ATP or energy. All right. So what your cows will do, same thing me and you do. Okay. We take glucose, which is just blood sugar. We bind it together with 3 molecules of phosphorus and we create ATP, which is the fuel source that your cells use to work. Okay. So that means for your cow to stand up, she needs phosphorus. For her to walk, for her to drink, for her to ruminate, do anything, she needs phosphorus. So phosphorus obviously is going to be paramount in the success that we're taking a look at here. And so this kind of comes back to, brings me to a real classic study that we put together or that was conducted years ago at the King Ranch. And they looked at feeding cows a phosphorus supplement compared to giving cows no extra phosphorus. So the only phosphorus they got was in the grass or the hay that they were eating. And so those cows that didn't get any phosphorus, there was only a 65% weaning rate. So they weaned off 65% of their calves, and their calves averaged 490 pounds. All right. The cows that did get a phosphorus supplement, they weaned off 90% of their calves, and their calves weighed 50 pounds heavier. So if you think about it, that's a 53% improvement in total beef production. All right. A 53% improvement in pounds that you can sell at weaning just by feeding a phosphorus supplement. All right. Cattle definitely need mineral. And so if you start to ask, well, what kind of impact can that have on my bottom line as a producer? Well, if we use today's market and look at where the cattle prices are at and look at what it costs to put together a high quality mineral program, a supplement 4 ounces a day for an entire year, that's going to be a $205 net return per cow exposed to a bull. $205. All right. That is an extraordinary amount of money that can really have a big impact on your bottom line. So a more recent study that was conducted by the University of Missouri probably clarifies why we saw such a big improvement in terms of that phosphorus supplementation. You see, it turns out not only does your cow need phosphorus, but the bugs that live in her rumen need phosphorus as well. So as a nutritionist, and as I was working on my PhD, pretty much all we did was talk about the bugs. All we did was talk about the microbes. See, because the microbes, they do all the dirty work, right? The bugs, they take that grass, that hay, the stuff you and I can't digest, and they break it down and they provide an energy source for those cows. That's why we have upcycling in cows. That's why cows are able to thrive on that forage-based environment. Well, it turns out those bugs, they've got a requirement for phosphorus as well. And so this University of Missouri study, they looked at the difference between feeding basically just a typical salt block versus a high-quality mineral. And you can see that those bugs did a better job. They digested 3% more protein of the feed they were fed. They digested 6% more fiber of the feed they were fed, and they digested 7% improvement in total digestible nutrients. Now, I don't know about you, but it makes sense to me that if your bugs and if your cows are more efficient eating the grass that they got, that they're going to breed back earlier, and that they're going to have heavier calves when it comes to weaning weight because they're more efficient with the grass and the hay that they're going to be eating. All right. So mineral nutrition can be complex, but some of these things still have some interesting sources to look at. So the next thing that kind of brings me to is, we talked just a little bit about bioavailability. And this is one of the tricks that sometimes our competitors will use. So, bioavailability is just what percentage can the cow use, all right? And so we're using monocal phosphate, maybe dical phosphates, where it's 100%, 98% bioavailable. So that means all the phosphorus that is in that bag of mineral, your cow can use. Now, a lot of our competitors, they're using some of these, kind of phosphorus sources down here at the bottom, rock phosphate, something along those lines, where they might say, yeah, it's a 7% phosphorus program. But at the same time, the cow can only use half of the phosphorus that's in the bag. All right. So I'll tell you this, and I truly believe it. Purina, we're probably never going to be the cheapest product if you're just going to look at us in terms of the price per bag. But if you evaluate our mineral product and all of our products based on the cost of gain, the performance that you're going to have, the breed ups that you'll have, the pregnancy rates, the weaning weights that you're going to generate here, the health, we are the best bet in town. And that's because we don't cut corners. We use only the best in terms of bioavailability, and phosphorus is one of the first places we look at. Now, as we kind of start to move forward here and go through, the other interesting thing to me is we every stage in production here, obviously mineral is going to have a key factor. So one of the first things that happens if you know somebody that ever gets, that's pregnant, you got a wife or a daughter or a friend, first thing the doctor does, put them on a prenatal vitamin, right? Well, obviously vitamins and minerals are going to be very important. We start talking about that cow and she's pregnant, fetal program is something we've done a lot of work on. And we start thinking about the development of that fetus. We start thinking around calving. Obviously we got a lot of different things here. They're going to be involved in terms of immune system development, milk production, the fertility of that cow, and programming that calf to have a successful lifetime throughout their life. And then as we start getting further on during lactation, keep in mind, this is when that cow is in peak lactation. We obviously got a high calcium requirement at that time, and that cow's at a pretty pivotal point of her life where we want to make sure that we still got her healthy and that she can, kind of do there what we need to and get her bred back the way that we want to. All right. So we've established that cattle need mineral supplementation. Okay. Your cows are eating hundreds of different types of grasses. All those grasses got different concentrations of minerals. Those concentrations change throughout the year. And many of our forages all forages are going to be deficient in phosphorus part of the year and zinc and copper for the most part. And so for those three are commonalities we've got to supplement. All right. So that brings me to my second key point here. And that's the cows have got to eat the mineral that you're providing to them to have value. Okay. You can't just put it out there in the feeder and expect all of a sudden things are going to get better. You got to make sure that those cows are going to eat it. Now, this is one of those things that's a little easier said than done. If any of you have ever tasted mineral before, you can probably attest that it's not the most palatable to the tongue. It's basically, it's got kind of a metallic taste. And honestly, if you think about minerals, we're trying to get cows to eat ground up rocks here. If you look at minerals, you think about a mineral mine, it's just, from the earth, it's basically a rock. All right. So it's challenging to get cows to go eat mineral at their targeted rate. And I mentioned earlier how important the balance of minerals are. And so it's also important that we get those cows to eat what they're supposed to. Like our minerals are formulated for 4-ounce consumption. If they don't eat enough, well, then the balance of minerals is off. If they eat too much, then our balance of mineral nutrition is going to be off. And so having that consistent targeted effect is where we want to be at. And it can be pretty challenging here because obviously we know that it's not the most palatable thing to look at. Now, we've done a tremendous amount of research at our facility, our research facility in Gray Summit, Missouri, and to try to make sure that we have the right targeted, consistent intake that we're looking for here from a mineral nutrition standpoint. So I'm really proud to tell you that we have what we call customer demos. And so customer demos are done at farms and ranches just like yours from around the country. All right. And they will track the mineral intake of their cows because it's not just good enough for our product to work at our farm or at our research facility. It has to work at your farm if we're going to get the performance that we're looking for. And so we've had 145,000 head of cows that have done some of these customer demos. And I'm proud to say that, yes, we want those cows to eat 4 ounces a day. And the average intake on those customer rounds is 4.01 ounces. So almost exactly where we wanted to be at from a target standpoint. So we put a lot of effort into this. It takes a tremendous amount of research and constantly verifying it that it works, but we get that intake exactly where we want to see it at. Now, there's several different things that'll affect mineral consumption. Every now and again, I hear people tell me that like, hey, cows know when they're deficient in mineral. Well, they do a little bit. They know if they're deficient in phosphorus, and they know when they're deficient in salt. And so they got an appetite for those two products, which honestly is pretty cool. I don't know about you, but I've never got done, eating at McDonald's before and thought, boy, I need a little bit more manganese, or I need a little bit more of this or that in my diet because I didn't have enough. But those cows, they do sense when they are low in phosphorus and salt. So that will drive some differences in mineral consumption. But after that, they don't know if they're deficient in zinc or copper or iodine or any of those things. So, but salt and phosphorus will drive some differences in consumption. One thing that I think is pretty practical that you can do is if you feel like your cows are over or under consuming mineral, is place that mineral feeder relative to water. If your cows are under eating mineral, if they're not eating enough, put it closer to the water. Okay. Think about yourself when you go to like a Mexican restaurant and they throw down the chips in front of you, and you might not even be hungry, but before you know it, you've eaten a whole basket of chips because you're bored and they're just in front of you. Well, your cows will be the same way. If you got the mineral right in front of the water, real close to the water, they'll start to eat more mineral just because it's around their loafing area. Okay. So that'll improve consumption. If you got cows that are eating maybe a little bit more mineral than when you'd like to, just kind of the bottom step there says step 3. See how they've moved that mineral tub away from the water. And then as a consequence, they've got to walk all the way over there. So that'll kind of lower your mineral intake. So we can do some different things here to mimic or to try to change our mineral intake, to get it exactly where we want to. So some of this is going to come down to the art of making sure that we've got everything positioned where we want to. Now, if you've got some problems with mineral consumption, like sometimes we live so close to the Gulf Coast down here that sometimes it's tough to get cows to eat loose mineral. There's a lot of salt in the atmosphere. And so because of that, sometimes cows don't want to eat a loose mineral product. And so that's where I would tell you to explore using one of our mineral tubs. And so mineral tubs is the best in terms of getting consistent intake because the sweet molasses taste of that tub is going to keep those cows back and getting them consume every single day. All right. The other nice thing about tubs is obviously there's a lot of weatherability there. It isn't going to get spoiled by rain, or it's not going to blow away in the wind. And so this is one of the products that I really like. And honestly, if I could make a perfect recommendation, I would recommend people use mineral tubs. That seems to be where we have the most consistency in terms of cattle eating it every single day. All right. Now, so our mineral tubs, looking at our customer demonstration data here, we got about 35,000 cows represented. Those are formulated for 6-ounce consumption. And you can see here that our average consumptions at those customer demos is 5.6 ounces. So almost exactly where we wanted to be at, really on target for where we want to see it. Now, the other thing I'll tell you is that we do live down here in Central and South Texas. It gets pretty warm. So anytime I put a tub out there, whether it's a mineral tub or a protein tub, I like to put a round tire just around the base of it. Because of it gets so hot, and particularly if you leave those bad boys out in the sun, sometimes if those cattle will tip it over, that molasses will kind of turn into a liquid and it'll run out. And so by using that tire around the side of it there, that keeps those cows from pushing it over. And I would also implore you that if you got the opportunity, try to put those underneath the shade tree just so they're out of direct sunlight. We see that on some of our tubs as well. Just you get a little hot, and if they push them over, they can run out. So that's a good way to eliminate waste on our mineral tub products. Okay. So we've established cattle need mineral supplementation. All right. Many of our forages are deficient in terms of mineral. It's also really important that cattle have got to eat the mineral, right? I just can't buy a product and put it out in the feeder and expect all of a sudden my cows are going to breed back at 100%. But the last factor that I really want to talk about is that Purina has a full line of research tested and field proven options that'll work for you, no matter what your circumstance, no matter what your production objections are. So, the interesting thing for me is that we've got hundreds of different SKUs at Purina. All right. And so this is really something that I'm pretty proud of in both our loose form and in the tub options as well. And so it's almost like having a custom mineral that is formulated directly for your ranch, but it's also got the added peace of mind of knowing that it's backed by Purina's research and our field expertise. So there's plenty of PhD nutritionists just like myself from all over the country that get an opportunity to implement some of these products. And we've got all that data to kind of back up where it's working at. All right. Now, the one thing that, I really like to look at when I'm making a mineral selection, first thing is weather resistance. Okay. And so I talk about this a lot with some of my friends. Every now and again, I hear people tell me like, I can't afford that high price mineral product. All right. It's too expensive for me. All right. And I'll always tell you that the most expensive mineral you're ever going to buy is the mineral that doesn't work. All right. If you got a really fine product that blows away in the wind, if you got a product that once it gets rained on, it turns into concrete like these guys, that's a very, very expensive mineral product. And I don't know about you, but I don't know how many times there's been in my life where I've tried to, take the cheap road, kind of was broke and said, well, I need a new tire, but I'll just get the cheapest one. And then you drive on it for about 2,000 or 3,000 miles and it blows out and you got to buy a new tire. And you're like, boy, that was the most expensive tire I ever bought in my life. I could have bought a good tire and gotten, another 30,000 miles out of it. But instead I tried to save $20 and cost myself a lot. Well, if you're buying a cheap mineral product that isn't going to work, you're not getting it. It's not a cheap product, right? The price tag may be cheap up front. Or if you're buying a cheap price tag product that turns into concrete or blows away because it's not weather resistant, I promise you that's a very expensive bag of mineral that you just bought. So, something we're really proud of is our storm technology. So we talk about our wind and rain, and we got that storm technology. This is something that was really challenging to do. So this product will not spoil in the presence of water. If it gets rained on, it's not going to brick up. It's not going to clump up. But at the same time, it's not so stringent that it still will break down in the rumen, break down in the small intestine to be digested. So that's a really tough needle to thread there, to where it's strong enough to withstand water, but not so strong that it withstands digestion. And so this is one of the other, patented technologies that we've got at Purina that we're really proud of is the weatherization of our product. And I think that's something you should certainly explore when you're making a mineral selection. The next thing that I really like to talk about when making a mineral selection is sometimes our trace mineral packages. All right. And so most of the mineral products that I recommend, or the ones that I've had the best luck at, include our Zinpro products. All right. And so if you know Zinpro or Avelafor, these are names that are synonymous with bioavailability, right? The ultimate in bioavailability. All right. And so when we look at our trace minerals, obviously you can see them listed down here at the bottom. The reason that the reason that Zinpro and Purina have such a good relationship is because Zinpro is like-minded to us, okay? They also believe it's not just good enough for their product to work at their test center or their research farm. It's got to work at your farm and your ranch. And so Zinpro is backed up and verified by more independent research studies conducted at universities around the country than any other mineral supplier that we have out there on the market. And time and again, the reason that they're not afraid to put them out there and to have a third party verify it, because they know the product works. And so Avelafor and their newest product that we're going to talk about, ProPath, are really good products. And I think if you've got high performance objectives, if you want the ultimate in terms of bioavailability to ensure that your cows are going to breed up at the rate you want to, I would definitely explore using one of Zinpro's trace mineral packages in your line of products. And that's certainly the products that I've had the best results with myself. And so a really interesting study that Zinpro just published this last summer, just to give you a taste and some of the work that they're doing here. This looked at early embryonic death. All right. And so any of you guys, if you've ever AI'd cows before, this is a big problem in the cattle industry, where you may AI a cow, she passes over, she's bred, and then all of a sudden 2-3 months later, she cycles back again because she had early embryonic death. So this shows that, feeding Avelafor reduced early embryonic death by 9% in virgin heifers here. And so if you assume that those calves are going to be worth $1.25 at weaning, you're going to get a 4-to-1 ROI by investing in Avelafor compared back to sulfate minerals. So that's a tremendous return on investment. And so this is why we like to incorporate Avelafor and ProPath and a lot of our products that we have here at Purina. And another one of those things that I sure would be looking at when I'm making a mineral selection. And then finally, we'll talk a little bit about, we can use this as a product to, minerals, a good way to try to control some fly control as well. And so as we start to look at, putting Clarify in some of those products, that's really impressive to me. When we think about in programs that do not use any sort of fly control, we usually see up to 1,000 flies on a cow. All right. And when you consider that, if you got 750 or 1,000 flies per cow, those flies take 20 to 30 blood meals every single day. All right. Well, it's pretty easy to figure out that that's why we're seeing that $40 in lost production in cows. Obviously, if they're eating that, they're taking that much blood from the cow, there's going to be a loss of performance in those. And that costs the cattle industry about $1 billion every year because of fly control. Okay. So Clarify is a great product. It's a feed through, so it doesn't have any effect in the rumen. It doesn't get digested. But what it does do is once it gets, once that calf or the cow passes through, when it gets in the manure patty there, manure is where flies lay their eggs. And so it works as a growth inhibitor. It keeps those fly eggs from maturing into a mature fly. And so that's how Clarifly works there. So Clarify is a great product. I certainly would recommend using it. You know, they say to use it 30 to 45 days before fly season and 30 to 45 days after fly season. Well, down here in our part of the world, that's just, you got to feed it year round if you're going to get to work. And I do believe that Clarifly is a great product, and I would sure implore all of you guys to do it. Now, I have seen some folks that have had some issues with fly control. Keep in mind, it's not a magical elixir. You're just not going to put it out there and it's going to get rid of all the flies. A lot of this is going to come back down to pasture management, getting rid of manure. You know, flies laid their eggs in manure. They lay their eggs in like decomposing forage or hay. If you got an old hay pile there, you got to clean that up. You got to take away some of those little sweet spots where those flies like to lay eggs. And so if you get rid of those, and you incorporate Clarifly, you can definitely cut your fly control or cut your fly population in half there, which can have a big impact on your bottom line. Okay. And then finally, to kind of summarize things up here, I'm going to talk about ProCycle. And so ProCycle is our top of the line product that we have at Purina. This is a product that we just developed by a couple of my predecessors. So I just started with Purina here full time in January, but Dr. Clay Burson and Dr. Doug Hawkins were the two gentlemen that put together ProCycle, and they're the other cattle consultants in the state of Texas. And those gentlemen built this product, and they had it in mind for seed stock and club calf producers or cow-calf operations with really high expectations in terms of performance. I work with several big cow-calf operations at the Gray Ranch in Louisiana. They used ProCycle and had their best breed up that they'd ever had, weaned off the biggest, stoutest calves they'd ever had. I think they weaned off 800 calves and only had one of them they had to treat. So they were big fans of ProCycle. And the reason the ProCycle works really well is because it's the ultimate in bioavailability, and it's got a lot of other things in here that we're really proud of. So the first thing that we like is it's got the palatability enhancing flavors to ensure that those cattle are going to eat it and eat it consistently. Obviously, it's a weatherized product with wind and rain. It's got the full inclusion of the ProPath, which is Zenpro's latest technology that they came out with. So they've had Avela4 for quite some time. ProPath is the next generation of Avela4. So it's a top line product. And right now, ProCycle is the only product that you can go out there and get in the in the cow-calf sector right now that has got ProPath in there. So ProCycle is the only place you can get this new technology, this cutting-edge technology from our friends at Zenpro. It's also got Cellugest in it, which would be Puriferm. Some of you probably have heard of Puriferm and Amiferm before. These are Cellugest products. So a lot of that's in our show feeds, or some of our competitors use, Cellugest or Puriferm, Amiferm in their minerals as well. And what this is going to do is going to enhance the fiber digestion of your cows. So your cows are actually going to be more efficient at eating the grass that you give them. So a lot of our friends that use ProCycle, they like it because they see a difference right away. They kick their cows out. Their cows get fat. They slick off. They look good because of that Cellugest. So we got in there. It's got the high concentrations of vitamins and minerals in there. And then another thing that I really like down here too is, we get enough water and rain, and it gets pretty soggy down here sometimes. So we got the high concentration of iodine in there with some added zinc as well to try to alleviate a lot of those different products that we've got, the problems that we see here with foot rot and some problems there as well. So I just did some rudimentary cowboy math here. I did my Aggie math, I guess, here. I did my undergrad at A&M. And so if you consider that's going to cost you about $39 a year to go ahead and provide a high quality mineral product year round. All right. And I'm expecting that most of the data sure suggests that you're going to see those cows breed back earlier because of that. So if your cows calve 15, 16, 20 days earlier, you're going to expect to see a heavier weight calf. Your cows are going to be able to milk a little bit better because of that. And so past your initial investment, you're still going to see 100% return on investment. All right. And I think that's a pretty good math that you could look there, making $39 a head just by feeding a mineral product on the conservative side. And so I'm going to leave you with this slide. This is some cattle facts data here, and this looks at the average profitability of cow-calf operations over the last 40 years. Okay, so the green line, that's the top-end producers. The yellow bar, that's the average producer, and then the red line, those are your low-end producers. And you can see that, the high-end guys, they made money 38 out of 40 years. And if you look at that box up there, Cattle Facts identified what traits put those guys in the high-end place. What were the things that delineated the high-end producers from the average producers? And the first thing they said was reproductive efficiency. Well, we've been talking all day about how, copper, zinc, phosphorus, all these things are going to help your cows breed back better. Animal health, well, obviously, we know that mineral is paramount in terms of ensuring the right kind of animal health. The third factor they looked at was nutrition. Again, mineral is the spark plug that ignites your nutrition program. And then fourth, they found was genetics. So 3 of the 4 keys that they found was included in terms of, mineral nutrition and putting those high-end producers there. And you think about if you can make 39 extra bucks per cow, if you look at the cow-calf business, a lot of those years, the difference between making money and losing money might be 39 bucks per cow. And so some interesting data to kind of keep in mind there. This is a big investment that we want to make sure you look at. So no matter what your option is, Purina has your mineral. No matter what your special circumstance, the type of grass that you got out there, we got the product that'll work for you. So just to summarize, cattle need mineral supplementation. Our forages are inherently deficient in many of the minerals that are essential for profitable production. Second bulletin point here is that cows need to consume the mineral for it to have value. You just can't put it in the feeder and walk away from it. The cows have got to eat it if we're going to bolster their performance the way we want to. And then third, we've got a huge full line of mineral products that'll work for you no matter what your special circumstances are. All right. So with that, I guess I'll open it up or answer any questions if we got any of those. I don't know if we had any on the chat. Nope. Okay. All right. Well, appreciate your guys' time. Thanks for having me.
Again, we'd like to thank Dr. John DeClercq with Purina Animal Nutrition for updating us and refreshing us on the importance of a great mineral program. And to follow suit with that, we here, along with all of our other specials for Everything Ag Expo, are offering some savings on your Purina minerals. We have the opportunity to book your needs from now until January the 31st. So if you're going to need some mineral in that time period, contact our direct inside sales team and they can get your mineral booked for your needs from now through January. And then we'll do another booking come the spring for your mineral needs then. If you have any questions about that, you're more than welcome to give us a call, 979-778-6000, or send us a message or email at feedsales@producerscooperative.com. Our next session will be at noon. Dr. Mark Hilton with Elanco Animal Health on how to raise a healthy calf, and that'll follow right along with a great mineral program because mineral and immunity are tied hand in hand. And so we welcome you back to join us